So today we came to tell you a little bit about the fashion and the dress that you might have seen either in Dickens' works, some things that his characters might have been wearing, or some of the fashion that you might have seen in London during the time that Dickens was living and writing there.
So with that said, prior to Regency, we had heels. Men and women were wearing heels and bird cages and huge amounts of fabric. And now we enter a more simplistic period. High-waisted garments with lower scoop necks. Décolleté is shown, which is not improper. But her gowns are more circular and draped to the floor. Just after this, in about 1812, the skirts become more A-line. So we still have the high waist. The skirt is more A-line. The shoe is a little bit exposed. As you can see, my gown does not touch the floor. And men and women are in flats because the regents love to dance. In the back, we see closures such as eyelets to string the fabric closed. And we have also hooks and eyes, which were of the period.
For the women's fashion, we have gone from the very sleek silhouette of the Regency era. Suddenly the fabric is back. The emphasis in this time period is really on the breadth of the shoulders. The sleeves and the shoulders and sleeves, they get enormous. Hairstyles are incredibly elaborate. The curls and coils and puffs, every hairstyles get big. Hats are even bigger. Sleeves are as enormous as any other time in history. If you've seen the leg of mutton sleeves from the Victorian turn of the century gowns, these are bigger. You go into a very tiny waist, and then the skirts are going to start belling out again. They start A-line and then get even bigger. But they don't have cages at this point. It's all done with petticoats. Lots and lots and lots of petticoats, as many as 6 or 7. And they're all heavily starched, and that gives you sort of that really big full skirt effect. It's also very heavy and cumbersome.
So I'm going to kind of shoehorn myself into the middle of the presentation here because I'm representing sort of the same period that Cecily and Laura are, except this would be a little more lower class working dress. So this is a dress I've actually had for quite some time. I'm cleaned and pressed to be presentable, but it is, starting to show a little wear. It's a serviceable length, so I'm not going to trip on it while I'm working. The dress itself, I'm wearing all of the same kinds of undergarments that Laura is wearing, except, my petticoats aren't quite as voluminous because I'm working. And the dress itself is actually just a big sack, and it's given a waist by having an apron tied around it. So it's just another very interesting thing. Another thing you'll notice that most of us have our heads covered. Blanca's going to a ball, so she has her hair done up beautifully, but most of the rest of us have our heads covered. Gentlemen and ladies would both cover their heads going out in public. The ladies, we would want to shade our faces because, as Blanca noted, suntan was not a fashionable statement at that time. The Civil War silhouette consists of a steel crinoline, or what most of you would probably know of as a hoop or a hoop skirt. So again, we started with the slim silhouette, we got a little bigger with the petticoats, and now we've gone to what Laura was referencing, which is the hoop skirt that actually has steel in it to hold the shape. It was much lighter, it was much cooler, and then you didn't need as many petticoats. You would wear petticoats on top of it to hide the wire so that your skirt didn't look like a lampshade, so you wouldn't have the wires showing through, right? She's wearing a Garibaldi blouse, which has very full sleeves, and it's kind of a military-style blouse. And over that, she's wearing a Sonntag, or sort of a day wrap, and this is one that she knitted herself. And then to finish this military look, she's wearing a Glengarry hat, which is reminiscent of the Scottish military and is in keeping with the tartan skirt. And Dolly is showing us a bustle era outfit. We don't normally think of this silhouette when we think of Dickens. We decided to include it because it would have been the fashion right at the end of Dickens's life. The bustle started to come in 1868. The bustle silhouette, as you can see, we went from slim to rounder to rounder to rounder, and now for the bustle we've gone flat in the front and we've pushed it all to the back. Okay, the silhouette's still the same on the top. All of the ladies are wearing corsets or some kind of corset-like support, and it's pretty much the same corset you can use through all the periods. It's just this nice, smooth, provides a nice, smooth silhouette, and then your jacket and she's wearing a day jacket, and it's fitted directly over the corset. Another thing you will notice is that, except for Blanca, who's wearing short sleeves because she's going out to a ball, everyone else is wearing long sleeves and is covered to the neck. And in the Victorian period, if you were dressed like Blanca, you could show skin. If you were undressed, which was your day wear, that would be like the rest of the ladies. We were covered to our wrists and covered up to our necks. So that would be your undress, and then this would be dress. Would you all like to know what the dickens they were wearing under there? So we're going to start by removing her day bodice. This happens to be a French vest bodice, for anybody who's curious. It kind of gives the look of a vest, but it's really a one-piece bodice. And so the bodice is the last thing that she would put on. So we're kind of dressing in reverse. Okay, the next thing she has on is her skirt. And see, she might be wearing two skirts. A lot of times in this period, you would see an underskirt, and then you would see a skirt on top that was sort of swagged and more decorative. But she happens to just be wearing one skirt. So this is a bustle petticoat, and what I want to show you is the actual bustle cage, which is under here. And there's 4 pieces of wire, steel, spring steel, that form this support. And they're straight pieces of steel, and then there's cords that are tied in the middle to form it into that bow shape. And that's what just kind of sits there and supports her skirts. And this one happens to have an optional overlay, and the purpose of that is, again, to hide the wires so that you don't look like a lampshade. She could optionally be wearing more petticoats over top of this, depending on what she was trying to achieve. So that is the bustle petticoat. So this is as far as we're going to go for modesty's sake. The layer against Dolly's skin is her chemise, the top, and you can see that's a very long garment. It's not a little short slip, it's very long, and underneath that she's wearing drawers, and then she's wearing a corset, which has spring steel boning in it. It has a busk up the front, so she can dress herself because it unfastens like buttons. And then she can reach in the back and tighten the ties by herself. So this is how you could dress yourself. All right. Well, thank you all so much. Feel free to come and talk to us. And